Good morning. Let's take a look at yesterday, predominantly Champions League. Plenty of angles yesterday in the Champions League. This was an initial angle, Paphos against Villarreal. It was always going to be a tight match. Paphos scoring first, 1-0. I did tell members to lay over 0.5 goals at the start of the match, and I think we got to 0-0 at half time. 1-0 is a time to take Paphos on quite clearly, covering that 1-0. So I hope you did that. Came out of it with a break even. All that blood and thunder from Villarreal couldn't quite cross the line. I called Karabag as well. I did warn you about them in the research. Got a couple of scalps and a couple of goals in them as well against the likes of Benfica. So Chelsea had better be on their mettle. And indeed, it was 2-1 to Karabag. That for me was the trading angle in. Chelsea getting the equaliser. Draw layable as late as possible, given the need for a win, but that didn't eventuate. Ajax and Galatasaray, again, good research. Galatasaray clean sheets in the Champions League. Ajax keep getting mullered by 3 or 4 goals. It's not a classic Ajax side this season. The special one, always going for a 1-0, but the 1-0 plan tends to fall foul when you concede a goal. Very disappointing. Could have laid that 0-0 or laid the draw second half, but it was likely to be a strangle the life out of them performance from the special ones, Benfica. Club Brugge and Barcelona. Well, this was 4-3 to Club Brugge at one point. Szczesny made an absolute howler, but got away with it, of course, because it's Barcelona. No, not really. Superb match. Club Brugge do always threaten goals, and Barcelona, when you're holding your defensive line on the halfway line, it's not a very wise move. Plenty of trading potential there, but no real gains on the day. Got Barcelona at about 2.2. Could have got them a lot higher, which was a pity. Club Brugge laid at 3.25. Yes, there was a trading profit to be made at some point, but I was waiting for the win. Inter and Kairat Almaty. Value is in the eye of the beholder. What have I told you? You could back this 1.03 favourite with 35 minutes of the match to go at 1-1 with home advantage at about 1.35 to 1.4 odds. That's at 10x the starting point. So value doesn't have to be laying at short odds, backing at big odds. Value is relative. And that was an absolute steal. Because can you imagine if Inter had not beaten Borat's boys? They've been the laughing stock. Extremely good value, but nowhere near being anywhere near 1.03 performance from Inter Milan. That's all down to Borat's boys, Kairat Almaty. Marseille and Atalanta, poor performance from Marseille. Atalanta strangled the life out of them. Again, another 0-0 at half time. You could have arguably laid second half. Newcastle did need that second goal. They really did. Atletico Bilbao, again, what they've done all season in front of their fans is to flatter, to deceive, post some really good in-play stats, but just not deliver on the final product. So plenty of angles there yesterday. If you're using insurance, you're okay. English Championship, let's take a look at this. Preston against the Swans. Well, this was the story of whether Preston would flatten out at a single goal or continue their recent pattern of scoring 2+ goals. And you can tell which one that is. It was a watching brief at 1-0. I was interested in a Swans equaliser, but at 2-0, it was a very, very good entry point. Now, I did actually make a profit here on the 2-1. You could cash out, and it was a reasonable gain as well. I think it was heading towards the 25 plus mark, I think. But you can see that 127 on a draw only. Very, very enticing, isn't it, for a £9 hit? Again, I reiterate, green screen available at 2-1. All about the timings of the goal. If you want to get out at the earliest opportunity, that was a decent play from 2-0 to 2-1. As traders, we're not looking for the final result to be in our favour. We're looking for that single goal at the right time, scored at the right time to affect the market and get you a cash out, which indeed it did yesterday. But I'm afraid I've been doing a lot of this week, been one goal away from a three-figure return without it really affecting the betting bank. New manager for Southampton, and just like Genoa, not new manager, no manager, just like Genoa when Patrick Vieira left, suddenly started winning for the first time this season. As soon as the ginger hero for Southampton left, I'm forgetting his name, they start winning. So a very interesting pattern, that one. They were up against QPR, but no real trading angle because of the new manager element. Portsmouth and Wrexham, why would I not have taken this 0-0 on second half? Look at the market. 2.65 for Portsmouth, 2.65 for Wrexham. So despite 3 goals against Coventry, the market is telling you they were expecting a different story today, which indeed eventuated. So do please pay attention to the market. It does warn you that this is a match perhaps best left to the in-play stats, because market makers can't split the two teams, despite, on paper, Wrexham scoring plenty in the last match, but Pompey keeping it tight at home. Let's have a look onto today's trading angles, and to be honest, there aren't any. It's Europa League, Europa Conference League. We'll have a walk through the matches, and we'll just see what we can see. AFC Champions League will always still be of interest. We've got Ratchaburi scoring 7 yesterday at 1.62 odds, so that might be something to look out with Pathum Thani or Pathum United. Beijing, go on, Father, have a cup of tea. Father Ted's favourite team, or Mrs. Doyle's favourite team. She supports them through rain and sleet. They're 1.19 at home against the Hong Kong side. You've got an absolute battering from Ratchaburi yesterday. So their side as poor as Ratchaburi, scoring 7 against you. Beijing, go on, Father, have a cup of tea, are likely to be scoring quite a few. 12:15, it's well worth my attention, I think. Again, Pohang Steelers against Tampines Rovers, Singaporean side, should be gettable. So I'll be keeping an eye on these. Short odds can always provide a trading angle. English League One today, Reading against Stevenage. Why haven't I researched this? I wonder. We've just been talking about it, haven't we? 2.4 the favourite, but why not take a peek? Don't forget, you can read these previews here. They're completely free, very well written. They can provide you with a decent sounding board for your ideas as well. All right, I've got the XG analyzer working on the Reading and Stevenage match, and I've been improving the app yesterday. Hopefully it will carry on getting improved. This is the whole thing with these applications. Can't release half an app, because if multiple people are using it, we're starting to get multiple errors. I don't fancy sorting that mess out. So the app will only get released when I'm happy with its quality. While we're waiting for the analysis of the XG, I could do an AI analysis, but let's go old school before the robots came, when John Connor ruled the world. So we're going back to how things used to be done back in the old days when we used our brains. So this is Reading against Stevenage. Don't forget, the market's telling you it's too tough to call. Play in play stats or not at all. Well, looking at the start of the season, Stevenage in impeccable form. And indeed, only the 2 defeats, both of them 1-0, both of them away from home. Now, the reason the market can't get rid of Reading, quite clearly see, can't you? Draw-itis. Reading, Celta Vigo, Atalanta love a 1-1 draw. It's the 1-1 club. So that is a ready angle, particularly when you note that Reading have only scored 2 goals on 2 occasions, and that was at the first 2 games, 13th of September onwards. But since the 27th of September, they've failed to score that second goal, but they are scoring and conceding, therefore very competitive. Look at Stevenage in contrast, only losing 1-0 away. So I think if Reading score first, that's our angle in. Like Paphos yesterday against Chelsea. Cover that 1-0 and look for that Reading recovery, which seems to be on the cards if you look at their really good form. So this is why it's 2.4 plus the favourite. these two are in pretty decent nick. When Stevenage lose, they only just lose. That's their only time they failed to score. So I think the angle in here, on paper at least, is to lay a Reading opener. But if, as ever, this is your pre-match angle in, it's the in-play stats that count, isn't it? Because it's a 2.4, the favourite match. Reading are way down the bottom. It's because they've had a tough opening campaign. They've played vast majority of the top 11, early season top 10 best form sides, and they've not crossed the line. Now, if you're following that strictly, you're looking at Stevenage here, aren't you, to perform? But notably, Reading haven't played any of the top 5 at home. Now, that might suggest, are they going to be tighter against the top teams at home? We don't know. But we've got an inference here that they are vulnerable if scoring. Okay, Stevenage are 4th in the league. Only those two 1-0 defeats coming against top 9 sides away. I don't understand this market at all. 100% wins against 10th and lower, playing 20th today. The only reason I can think of is the market's just noting that it's pretty tight for Reading at home. They do score and concede. They've had a hell of a lot of 1-1s as well. As you can see, vast majority of those coming away. So the value for me lies in Stevenage here today, but I do respect the market, which gives both teams as equal a chance of victory. Second half, if it's 0-0 at half time, looks like a very biased second half for Reading if they are to get a goal. It's highly likely to come on the hour mark, which suggests substitutions perhaps impactful late on. You've seen that it's a real pattern. Late substitutions bringing late goals, particularly in the Premier League. And you'll look on the 60-minute mark, but Stevenage away from home, very vulnerable on the hour mark. So for me, 60 minutes, maybe at 0-0, it's a time to start targeting a potential end of that draw. Could be one of those to lay over 0.5 goals, perhaps at the start of the match, because of that 1-0 itis for Stevenage and that 1-1 for Reading, and the second half bias. So laying over 0.5 goals at the beginning of the match, not going to cost you much at all. Right, well, let's have a look at the new style analyzer. I've asked it to insist on providing totals, so it's got the information wrong there, but I'm wondering if this average is accurate. If the average is accurate, well, we've got Stevenage barely scraping the line to get that 1 goal a game, and defensively the average 1.13 do keep it tight, hence those 1-0 defeats. So that's something Reading will have to overcome. Reading's expected goals at home is pretty good. It's knocking on the door of 1.5, which is knocking on the door of the ability to create 2+ quality chances for goals a game. So I'll get it working on those totals, because that's not accurate. But we've got the league context as well. Predicted outcome. Let's have a look. Stevenage appears to have the edge. Indeed, I would agree with that myself. Well, Reading has a decent XG. Their actual goal scoring is lower than expected, indicating finishing issues or bad luck. So that's a decent angle, isn't it? If Reading score first, are they going to score that second goal? And we've even got the Select Car Leasing Stadium in Reading. Fantastic stuff. I can't think of a stadium more duller than a Select Car Leasing Stadium. Fantastic stuff. Where are we going to watch a footy? Oh, we're going to the Select Car Leasing Stadium. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So those of you heading off to the Select Car Leasing Stadium today, bring your coat. I think Reading and Stevenage, we do have a potential leaning towards Stevenage here, but a respect for the market. 2.4 the favourites, telling you, absolutely wide open. Europa League and Conference League, absolutely no point me doing research or indeed XG. Why? Because the XG will be based predominantly on domestic league form. Okay, you saw Paphos against Paphos yesterday, getting that 1-0 win. All down. We know they're defensively bent. Can they continue that on into the Champions League? If you're looking at their XG for the Champions League, it would be a lot different. So let's see whether we can find Europa League XG at XG Score or Understat at some point. But looking through, FC Basel against Steaua Bucharest. We know Basel well from the Swiss Super League, been in good form. Got a 0-0 against Young Boys at the weekend. I think Young Boys were red carded, so they'd be disappointed not to have got a result there. This is very interesting indeed to see Red Star Belgrade competitive, at least from the market's perspective. I would have expected French League to have been a little bit tighter there. Another 1-1 for Celta Vigo, perhaps. That's what the market's screaming out. Very, very tight match indeed. I would have expected a a Spanish La Liga side to have a little bit too much for the Croatians. They tend to flatten out outside of their domestic league. Malmo and Panathinaikos, another toughie. You can see the coupon. There's no point researching. Look at this. 2.6. 2.6 the favourite, Nice and Freiburg. It's a very, very difficult coupon. Go Ahead Eagles beat Crystal Palace. We might see some value here today from them against Red Bull Salzburg. Could see a both teams to score scenario here as well. I think Go Ahead Eagles could be more competitive than 5.25. That's for sure. Nottingham Forest under Sean Dyche away at Sturm Graz. I think Sean Dyche will be tightening the ship defensively, despite shipping a few at the weekend. Scoring 2+ goals again as well. That could serve them very well away against Sturm Graz. But it's a watching brief because of the new manager element. Utrecht are likely to be competitive against FC Porto as well. Porto, one of those sides you've expected to be in the Champions League, not nestled in the Europa League. So they'll be a little disappointed with their season. Aston Villa have just been exceptional. Maccabi Tel Aviv's reputation in Israel is as a defensive side, but I don't think they'll have enough to trouble the villains tonight. That looks a banker material there. Real Betis against Lyon. Too competitive, this one. Again, I wouldn't discount Lyon here. Bologna have 2 goals in them in Italian SerieA, and I think the Norwegian side are going to be caught out, Bran, today. They're going to be outperformed, I think, and outscored if Bologna play to their SerieA form. Braga, the Portuguese side against Genk. Don't forget, you saw the goals yesterday from Club Brugge. These Belgians, something in the water, get some scoring goals. PAOK Thessaloniki, strange to see them very strong against the Young Boys. This is going to be attack v defence. Young Boys are going to be going for it. As I say, 0-0 at the weekend, red carded. So maybe that's fatigued them a little, playing with 10 men. That could be a factor. Rangers against Roma, solidly with AS Roma here, having a brilliant Serie A season. Rangers, well, not a brilliant season by any stretch of the imagination. I expect struggles from Rangers tonight. I expect Rangers to be layable if scoring first. Roma have been absolutely purring in Italian Serie A. This looks well worth taking Rangers on. But as ever, do Roma travel in the Europa League? We will see. Stuttgart against Feyenoord. This could be more competitive than the market suggests as well. Feyenoord have a real goal threat under Robin van Persie, albeit flattered because of the opponents they play in the Dutch Eredivisie. Stuttgart, rock solid season in the Bundesliga, so we'll be looking forward to that. So no XG analysis today. It won't serve you any purpose for these competitions because it's based on the league form. You can't transfer that to these because their opponent is going to be a little bit different than who they play week in, week out. AEK Athens against Shamrock Rovers. The Giants from Greece likely to do a number. That's what the market suggests. AEK Larnaca, park that bus like Paphos did. Aberdeen are going to struggle, you'd suggest, if the Paphos-like defence of Larnaca turn up. It's going to be a tough nut to crack. KUPS we know very well from the Finnish Veikkausliiga, but it's very tough to gauge against Slovan Bratislava. We know a little about Mainz and Fiorentina. Poor 0-1 loss for Fiorentina at the weekend. Mainz we know very well from the Bundesliga. Fiorentina lacking any significant goal threat. That's my concern with them. Noah's going to park the bus. The oldest manager in European football at 600 plus years old. The lad's doing tremendous. Park the ark and off we go. Samsunspor from Turkey. Watch out, 1.18 at home. Shakhtar Donetsk, the Giants from Ukraine, should be in the Champions League. So they'll be a little disappointed to be playing this conference competition. Crystal Palace lost to Dutch opponents last match. Go Ahead Eagles. Can't afford to do it on this occasion. And they're playing a far better side than Go Ahead Eagles today. So that 1.44 does look very skinny indeed for me. But is it a matter of needs must for Crystal Palace tonight? Those odds look far too short, given Go Ahead Eagles' performance against Palace. The goal threat could catch them. Dynamo Kiev, well, we can't train Ukraine, so we can't trade Ukraine. It's difficult to gauge how they've performed this season. Strasbourg have really impressed me in French Ligue 1, and I might have too much for the Swedish side Hacken today, even though the market's a little lukewarm about it. Rijeka playing the Gibraltar side, the Lincoln Red Imps. This is going to be another one of those Paphos-like sides who are going to really pile that defence up. Could be one of those to lay over 0.5 goals at the start of the match. Rayo Vallecano having a great season in La Liga. I thought Lech Poznan would be a little bit nearer odds-wise, but we will see. Shelbourne odds on from the Irish Premier Division, but it's going to be a slog for them, I would suspect. So there's some interesting matches today. As you can see, I can't do any XG. Absolutely pointless. So don't forget to subscribe to YouTube. Doing a live stream. Live stream this weekend, Saturday. So make sure you subscribe. And we'll be doing some tutorials when I get some time as well. Just looking at concepts such as overtrading, how to create a better shortlist of matches to trade, looking at old reliables, and a more in-depth focus on how AI can help you with your football trading. So the e-letter will be coming on Saturday as well. Make sure you're signed up for that, for the Premier League and XG reports for the Premier League every weekend, and some additional content as well. Have a great day. We've gone over the 20-minute mark, so probably not going to be able to get this on Instagram. Have a great day, and I will see members from 5 p.m. onwards, but I'll keep an eye out on the 12:15 kickoffs.